Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of On the Wrong Lead live, and we're going to be covering a bunch of races at Belmont at the Big A. Good old Aqueduct. We got 5 graded stakes on the card, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the late pick 5 there. Should be pretty interesting. If you haven't been paying attention, Santa Anita coming back this weekend, so we got. We got some more SoCal racing coming up, which also means the return of the $3 late pick 3 there, the $3 turf pick 3, all kinds of stuff going on there. And obviously you can check that out on Drank and Champagne, where we covered that on Friday, or Friday's card rather. But, I already see, Mark Capitan in the chat. He just says no. I mean, he was responding to somebody, but obviously Mark is actually traveling for work today. He was unable to make it. I mean, look at right. You guys aren't here to see me. You guys aren't here to see Mark. You guys are here to see Caleb. Mr. Caleb Knight, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good, Josh. You really put a lot of emotion into the introduction. I could really feel your heart and soul coming through on that one. I don't know if you're practicing or what, but I'm in a better mood after listening to it. So. Yeah, doing good. Busy week, but excited for some pretty good racing this weekend, I think. I know we talked last week about kind of being in the doldrums a little bit post, Saratoga Del Mar hangover a little bit, Kentucky Downs before maybe Keeneland starts up. But Aqueduct or Belmont at Aqueduct, pretty nice card. Some pretty cool racing this weekend. Santa Anita's back, which is always fun because I'm not much of a low-sal player. So yeah, it looks like we get some fun racing this weekend.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if you were just excited because I tried to put a little bit of something into the intro with Mark out of here, or if it's because I did ping you last night about a night horse running tomorrow at Santa Anita. I know you love to bet those night horses, but Caleb, we're doing a little word association, right? So, all right, we'll start NYRA, we'll start Professor, and 72-year-old pensioner women. What does that make you think of?
There's only one person who comes to mind with it hits that trifecta just ice cold perfectly.
Matthew DeSantis. Matt, how are you doing, my friend?
Catch that ticket, baby. Catch that ticket. That's right. I'm doing fantastic. Just peeled myself away from a couple of AARP ladies, and I'm doing great. No, it's wonderful. It's a fantastic weekend coming up. And you mentioned it, Santa Anita, Churchill Downs, Belmont at the Big A, great racing all the way around. Next weekend, opening weekend down at Keeneland. I'll be down there with my colleague Kaylee Shapiro. We're going to be covering the races down there. So it's just going to be so much fun. And then Breeders' Cup before you know it. So this is a great time of year for us, and super excited to be joining you guys and chatting with you guys about a fun Saturday card at Aqueduct.
You guys going to be going down to Keeneland?
We are, yes.
Ooh, nice.
Kaylee and I are going to be on site in Keeneland. I think she's in negotiations with Kenny McPeak to potentially take over the ride on Torpedo Anna. She might try to kick Flavian off. I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun down there. We can't wait to see the great 2-year-olds. Ted Noffey and Tommy Joe look like they're going to be pointed towards those races in terms of the Breeders' Futurity and the Alcibiades. I can't wait to see Torpedo Anna run in the Spinster. That's going to be a lot of fun, especially if Nitrogen decides to go too. So, that's going to be a lot of fun. Big weekend there. And that's really then the last round of those Breeders' Cup prep races. And then you really get, and that's, I think, such the exciting part is after Keeneland's opening week, you then really get that crystal clear view of like what's going to happen at the Breeders' Cup, and you're okay. This is how the fields look. This is how everybody's final form kind of stacks up going into that race.
Yeah, I know. Just Caleb and I were talking the other day. We were playing a game or something on voice chat, and Caleb goes, "We're like 5 weeks away from the Breeders' Cup," And I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense. That math is not right. Like it
Yeah.
cannot be.
I
And yeah,
know.
like it's just like the time between like Saratoga ending and like the
Yeah.
Breeders' Cup, I always feel like it's like, oh, it's like 2 months, right? It's like a
Yeah.
solid 2 months. I don't know where September went because I feel like September just started. It's gone. Like it's out of here. It's the 25th today,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's going to be
It
coming up
didn't even
soon.
have a
So
rapture. We were supposed to get raptured in September.
yep,
That didn't happen.
we're still here at least.
Shocked. We're still here. Some people from horse racing Twitter should get raptured, but nonetheless, everybody's still here and we're having a great time with them. But yeah, yeah, I agree with you though, Josh. Like it's flown by. And I also feel like that, because some years the Breeders' Cup is, and you guys know this, some years the Breeders' Cup is like November 6 and 7. And the last couple of years, it's been like November 1 and 2,
Hmm.
31 and November 1. And so it just feels like the way the calendar's fallen, the Breeders' Cup's kind of come a little bit sooner than it normally does. And it really does kind of not throw the calendar off, but it does sneak up on you pretty quick.
Yeah, I definitely just like, I don't know. I feel, we were talking a little bit beforehand. We're going to head up to Caleb's neck of the woods for Breeders' Cup. And Andrew Champagne was just giving me the business yesterday, asking where his invite was, and like I'm like. I don't know. I'm like, I'll talk to Caleb. And so like, he gave it to me on the recording. So we get done and I go, oh, Andrew, I'm like, are you serious? Like, I'm like, I honestly thought you wouldn't be able to come. Like, if you want to go, I'm sure Caleb would be cool with you coming by. He's like, no, he's like, I'm like, I can't go. Like, he's like, I got all this stuff going on with, and I'm like, man, this guy is just like, he's just a paid actor. All right. Do not believe anything Andrew Champagne says. Right. Cause he's just the gimmick thing, like,
Oh, the
is
gimmicks.
100%. I mean, the nickname is well earned.
Yeah. And we have an ongoing gimmick during Saratoga about him and the weather and the rain and the off turf stuff, and whether you can talk about the forecast at Saratoga more than 12 minutes before the race starts. And whether he trusts my meteorological skills or not. But what I would say is this: Andrew's invite to Caleb is the same place my invite was to Andrew's wedding, which was non-existent. It wasn't there. I looked around; it wasn't there. I can see a bunch of smiling faces. I see you guys. I see Gino. I see everybody's there having a great time. I don't know. Failed to finish, just hanging out here in Saratoga. No invite. So yeah,
love me some Gino, man. Gino was a trip. He was so much fun, man. But that's like, we're planning on going over there to Caleb's place. We're gonna figure some stuff. We can just degen all weekend. And like when I say degen all weekend, right now we have penciled in a casino trip and possibly a trip to a barcade thing. So
okay, that's
PJ saying that I'm just too nice of a guy. I'm just Midwest nice. So apparently, yeah. But
I've been south for a long time. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I lost my sense of sarcasm down south because I still think I'm pretty sarcastic, but I am very not gullible, but I just assume everybody's like genuine when they would say something like that. They're like, "Oh, where's my invite?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, let me work on that for you." And like, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I don't really want an invite." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well."
Oh, so when I told you to get the Jamaicans ready for Mary, you were making calls already. Okay.
We've already got it organized. Steel drum band. We're ready to roll.
God.
We're going to close out the Big A in style. So yeah, we're rolling. We're rolling right for that.
All right. Penn State Scott. He is continuing the tradition. He is sipping a 1792 foolproof, which is a very very it's a great bottle. It's $50-$60 pretty. Now it's like everywhere. I feel like every time I go to the store, I'm able to find one, which before it was just like, hard to find. But he's asking what tequila guest Matthew is imbibing. So I don't know if you got anything in front of you there, Matthew.
I don't. I do have a very nice bottle of something that Caleb sent me out in the other room, which I deeply appreciate. But it is 9:15 at night, and I don't want to pass out on you guys in the middle of the live stream. So I'm drinking Diet Mountain Dew is what I am imbibing right now, so that I can continue to do my work after this live stream is over. But Always love a good Casamigos, and always enjoy a good bottle of tequila. So
There's at
what
least
do you guys
one
sip
viewer
on?
who's very excited that you're drinking a Mountain Dew.
What's that?
There's at least one viewer who's extremely excited that you have a
Oh,
Mountain
I'm
Dew.
100% sure of that. Yeah. I got about 3 more years of this, Caleb, and then I'm dead. All right.
What about you, Caleb? You got anything in there?
Yeah, I got just a little bit of the that Alberta barrel proof rye. Drinks a little hot. I don't know if I'd buy
Getting a
that.
little. Is that a little Canadian whiskey?
It is Canadian. Yeah, it's.
I love it. Little Assiniboia whiskey. I love that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
That'd be more appropriate for like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest, Caleb. You know, we talked about this bottle, this lost Redwood Empire Lost Monarch. It's a bourbon and rye blend. So I think I don't know what the actual blend of it is, or if it's just technically like a high rye bourbon. It is good. And I paid $30 for this, and it's actually like shocking because I feel like lately with bourbon, there's been this weird thing where it's like it doesn't matter like who makes it. It's like, all right, $65, $70, and it's like these bottles are just getting more and more expensive. There's a distillery called Nulu that I really liked, and I bought a couple of bottles from them. They were like $70, $80 each, and literally after I kind of started buying them, next thing you know, like everybody wants like $100 plus for it, and I'm like, look, this is like a newer like place, like this is like let's settle down here with some of this pricing. So to see kind of a newer entry, I think Redwood Empire is newer. To that be affordable, I think it's normally $40. I think I got it on sale for 30. It is nice to not have to sit there and just completely overpay, because like we were talking about before, Penn State Scott with the 1792 foolproof, $60. Like, why you guys spend any more than that, But oh, excuse me. I did see Colin in here with a nice Matthew DeSantis. Woo.
Oh,
so
love that. I love that.
But anyways, people aren't here. Well, some people are here to hear us talk about alcohol and bourbon and Sarah's many dogs and whatever else is going on. But Belmont at the Big A, Saturday, September 27th card. We got 3 stakes races we're going to talk about, and then we're going to roll into the late pick 5 here. The way that they kind of put some of these races, I feel like they always do this when they kind of figure some of these races are going to be I don't know, maybe an issue. Like you see it like. You'll see like a grade 2 race, right? That's going to draw 5 horses, and like one of them is going to be like 1 to 9 in the race, and they're like, we'll just stick that in the early. So I don't know if that's kind of how they move some of these around. Some of these are in part of the early, some are part of the late. But I thought the late sequence was pretty good, and I thought most of these stakes races, albeit one of them were at least a little interesting. But race 4, I thought I did think was a good puzzle to start with here. The Belmont Turf Sprint, going 6 furlongs here at Aqueduct. Your morning line favorite is going to be 26 Black at 9 to 5. And then you kind of get Allegon and Senbai at 3 to 1 and 7 to 2 respectively. 8 to 1 on Bold Journey and Run Curtis Run. 6 to 1 on Dancing Buck. 12 to 1 on Live High, Live Low. I will let you go first as our guest, Matt. Where did you land in this race?
Yeah, listen, turf sprints are usually the bane of my existence. I get very frustrated by them, and it's funny because I'll complain about them and then I end up picking the right horse, but I still don't like it. And I just, it's always a tough puzzle to solve. Listen, I'm not going to try to be too creative. I mean, 26 Black is a very nice horse. New York bred who's really run well, nearly won the grade 2 Troy 2 back and easily won the Disco Partner. Flavian Pratt stays aboard. I have a lot of respect for Horacio De Paz. The last 2 numbers that this horse put up on Beyer and time form have been really solid. So I think that, he certainly makes a lot of sense in this field. The horse that I will take a little bit of a swing with to maybe not necessarily beat him, but that I've been including on my early pick 5 ticket is actually the number 2 Dancing Buck. I think this horse is interesting. Second back from that really long layoff, having not run from June 24 until August 25. Ran in that disco partner and did what you would expect a horse coming back from a 14-month layoff to do, which is to fade a little bit. You get Kendrick aboard, and the fact Michelle Nevin decides to spot this horse in a stakes race, off that restricted stakes race next time out, I think is real positive. And this horse can get back to that form it showed running back in 2024. I think this is a pretty serious horse potentially, and at 6-1, you're getting a little bit of a price. I don't know what to make of a horse like Senbei and Allegan. They're nice horses. They're consistent horses. They don't always consistently end up in the winner's circle, but they're very, they run the same numbers again and again. So 26 Black for me is kind of a de facto top choice, but I do think Dancing Buck is a really interesting horse from a standpoint of a horse that I would be excited to bet on potentially in this race, and I think could run a really nice effort.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to play this early sequence that includes race 4 and 5, but I really like Dancing Buck in this spot. I think he's going to present a little bit of value in here. On time form he looks really good, and I think the one thing that stands out to me about Dancing Buck is Dancing Buck, I believe, has 2 starts on this Aqueduct turf, going the 6 furlong distance. Both of those are wins. Those also happen to be, if not his best, I think off by a point, his best speed figures that he's run. So I think this might just be kind of a horse for course angle here for Dancing Buck. Likes to run here on this Aqueduct turf course. And it seems like he's kind of run whenever he's run at Saratoga, I think he's not been able to kind of match what some of these other horses have been able to do. But honestly, I mean, like, you look at his last race at the Jaipur before that long layoff. I mean, I think that race that race fits very, very well with this group, even though he finished 6th in that race in that spot. So I don't know if it's so much because these horses are kind of starting to maybe regress a little bit, because obviously 26 Black beat him next time out, but you also look at some of the names that were in that race versus what's in here. So yeah, I think second off the layoff here for Dancing Buck, getting back to a surface that I know he likes. I expect him to run a good race, and I'm probably not playing this early, but I think I'll have a nice little win bet here on the 2 Dancing Buck as my top pick in here. Caleb?
Yeah, you guys really covered the 2 horses I wanted to talk about. I also think Dancing Buck is interesting. More so for me, I just didn't see very much pace in the race. If you look through the field, I mean, it's hard to find any horse that was first at the first call other than Dancing Buck, for the most part. It's fair to question, second off the big layoff, if he has the early speed that he once did, or if he's the same horse. But I do think that at 6-1, you can be pretty forgiving of that last effort, which, I guess on paper, this might be a step up in class, but it's largely the same field he was facing in that disco partner. So I do think that Dancing Buck is one who, with Kendrick inside post, should be controlling speed at a track and configuration that he's proven he likes. So I totally agree with you guys on Dancing Buck. When I first capped this race, I thought 26 Black was close to a single, but then I kind of dug into it a little bit more. And yeah, the Troy was very good and the disco partner was very good, but I guess you kind of have to ask yourself, did this horse really turn a corner, or what happened? Because for the most part, horses like 26 Black and Bold Journey, Allegan, Senbei, they just take turns beating each other. It's like the channel makers, Zulu Alpha, whoever else of like the yesteryear. Yeah. So, I just kind of wonder, like, do you really want to take 9-5 on this horse? I mean, I'm not so sure. He is your most likely winner. I won't dispute that, but I just don't know that the price is going to line up for his chances of winning in my mind. So the one horse that's a bit of an outsider I'll take a shot with is the number 7, Run Curtis Run. He's another one that was beaten by a few of these runners 2 back, but he had a pretty terrible trip. In that race back on June 28th at Aqueduct. I mean, he was bumped at the start, shut off, went super wide, was coming late and just kind of ran out of racetrack. He still didn't get a great trip last time at Saratoga, but ended up getting the job done anyway. I get it. You lose Flavian Pratt here to the favorite, but I think this horse has some ability, and I do think he's had some difficult trips where he was kind of stuck behind slow paces or end up not getting quite the right setup here. So I don't know if he gets enough pace to run at because like I said, there's not a lot of speed in here, but he's probably the other outsider that I'll make a case for, and we'll probably have on a ticket somewhere.
Stephen Fox saying he can't wait to see the Zulu Alpha shirt in the flesh. Anything else?
Yeah, I think this is to follow up on Caleb's point. I mean, this does feel like a group. It is funny. It does feel a lot like that turf marathon group from a couple of years ago, where everybody just kind of takes turns beating everybody else, and nobody has really been that much of a standout. And so I think it's fair to question whether or not 26 Black has really all of a sudden become a new horse. Now, the one thing that corresponds with that change is Flavian taking over. Now, did the horse just suddenly become a different horse when Flavian got aboard? I mean, that's hard for me to believe. I mean, it's not like there was a barn change. It was not like there was any sort of other, dynamic that's really changed in that regard. And so, is Pratt just, that much better than everybody else? I mean, I don't know, I have a hard time believing that. And as much as I like Horacio de Paz, his record in graded stakes races is not particularly good. Now, that said, he doesn't usually have a horse that's this much of a favorite, like 26 Black. So when you sift through those numbers, you see a lot of, double-digit odd horses. And so you go, well, you can be forgiving of that career record in those spots because of that. But still, I do think it's not like this is, a Larry Ravelli horse in a turf sprint. It's not like it's a Mike Maker horse or a Wesley Ward horse or a George Weaver horse where you go, oh, I can trust this connection at a short price. I think there's reasons to doubt 26 Black and maybe followed up in this big of a spot. Run Curtis Run. Listen, he's a cool horse. I've always liked him a lot. You're right. That was not an easy trip last time out at all. And it was visually very impressive. And it was one of those things where I didn't think he was going to get there. And all of a sudden he kind of got an opening in the stretch and it was just like, boom, see you later. And he just put that field away. Switching off Lasik shouldn't be an issue. He ran really well in that race 2 back. Like you said, the AT Cole I thought was a good race. And, again, tough start there. So, a little bit of an odds. And we'll see if he gets the pace. But, great thing about New York turf racing is when you don't think there's any pace, a speed duel breaks out. And when you think there's going to be a speed duel, suddenly he's crawling 25 seconds to the quarter. So, you never know up here with the jockey colony.
I did see PJ asking if there's any love for Weaver turf sprints. So, any of you guys give the one a look here?
I mean, I took a look because it's George. I don't love the inside post, especially for a horse that doesn't have a lot of good early speed. I just worry about, where this horse is going to be sitting early on in the race. And I just think a horse like Run Curtis Run's a significantly better closer. So if you're going to, kind of put money on a closer, I'd rather go with a horse like the 7, like Caleb was talking about. So hard for me to get this one. And also, I don't always trust that Laurel form and things like that. And this horse, kind of weaves in and out of form a little bit. So at 12 to 1, obviously you're getting a little bit of a price, but it was not one of those like Weaver specials I felt like you could really see coming.
Yeah, not for me either. I think he'd be a surprise, but you'll get your price, if you think he's in with a shot. So, and I think he's probably better routing, but not for me.
James Kinchin asking what Fortnite dude says. Not seen Fortnite is fun yet in chat, so you'll have to wait to see what he thinks. But we'll move on to the Grade 1 Turf Classic, Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. We'll be going 1.5 miles on the turf here, and you get 5 horses. I did see somebody saying earlier we need a 45-minute discussion of a 5-horse field, and he's got a bingo. So we got a 5-horse field here. You get even money on Rebels Romance. You get 3 to 1 on El Cordobez, 7 to 2 on Redistricting, 4 to 1 on Farbridge, 8 to 1 on Rebel Red. Caleb, we're going a mile and a half on the turf, so that means that I got to have you go first. So, where did you land in this race?
Yeah, I feel like for some of the stakes races today at Aqueduct, I'm just kind of, I guess I'm filling in for Mark since he's out, because I just thought that Rebels Romance is way too good for this field. I mean, he's such a cool horse, an absolute globetrotter. I mean, he's earned $14 million in his career. I mean, he's got more frequent flyer miles than you can shake a stick at. So for me, this is his trip. He is built for a mile and a half. He is built for essentially North American style turf racing. It's why we see him do so well when he goes to the Middle East or when he goes to, Germany. It doesn't tend to fare quite as well at tracks like, Ascot or others. But even this year, he's had some pretty good races there, even at a track that probably doesn't play to his strengths. I think the 7-year-old gelding just keeps getting better. He's very tactical. He should be somewhat forward in a race that doesn't seem like it has a whole lot of early lick. It's only a 5-horse field. I'm not sure how much the pace really matters. But I just think that he's just head and shoulders above this group. I guess my main opinion is kind of him against El Cordobez. I don't think the Sword Dancer came up very strong this year. I was not super impressed with, the likes of Rebel Red, Nation's Pride. Farbridge was actually like my strong top pick in that race for the first time ever. And we all saw how that turned out when I picked him. So he's officially dead to me now. But yeah, I mean, I just thought El Cordobez really tripped out, saved every inch of ground, sat off a reasonably swift pace. And, for me, I just think he's one that I kind of want to play against. I think it's kind of telling that Pratt gets off to ride a Chad Brown horse who I don't give much chance to in here at all. So for me, I mean, I don't need to talk much longer about even money, but yeah, Rebels Romance is a stone cold single for me.
Matt.
Yeah, listen, I see it much the same way that Caleb does. Rebels Romance and Chucky Apples returning to Ozone Park. I mean, I think this is, we joke about it, but I think that really when you look at, Rebels Romance, I give Charlie Appleby so much credit for getting this horse back into form, because this horse really kind of maybe looked like he was losing his way a little bit as a 5-year-old. And you thought, well, maybe his best races were behind him. And man alive, he's won 10 of 13, I want to say, since that like 6th place finish here over a yielding turf course in this race a couple of years ago. And, he is just become what an amazing horse. I mean, you win in the Middle East, you win in Asia, you win in North America, you win in Europe. I mean, it's incredible what he's done. I just think his class is that much better than everybody else. But here's the thing. The jockey, musical chairs is so fascinating that William Buick doesn't come over for either Godolphin horse. He doesn't come over for Rebels Romance and doesn't come over for El Cordobez. Last time in the Sword Dancer, he came over and opted for Nation's Pride. I thought that was the dumbest choice he made in a while, because it was obvious to me El Cordobez was better.
It got me too.
And so I was baffled by this. Pratt rides El Cordobez, and as Caleb said, got the perfect trip. I mean, beautiful trip. Great ride by El Cordobez. By the way, thank God Joel is already in the Hall of Fame, because that ride on Farbridge in that race was not going to go on his Hall of Fame highlights. And that was just a Joel Rosario special where you're just shaking your head the entire way. And I was on the rail that day by the turf course. And I remember one of the photographers looked over at me and she said, I hope he wins, because otherwise it's going to be hell to pay on Twitter. And I said, he's not going to win. And so, that was just one of those. And so now, because Buick doesn't go over, Pratt goes to redistricting, you get Frankie Dettori on Rebels Romance, and you get Johnny V on El Cordobez. I mean, it's just interesting dynamics here. And so, listen, I think Rebels Romance is just that much better than everybody else. I don't, I'm not saying you or I could ride him, but I could, he's pretty automatic at this point, I think. It's also notable, yes, he's prepping for the Breeders' Cup turf in a little bit of a different way. He's prepped in that same race over in Germany the previous 2 times he's won, 2 of the last 3 years. This time he comes over here. But the one thing that I think is notable is he won his prep race coming into the Breeders' Cup in both those years. So to me, that says Appleby gets him ready, that this horse is ready to run. It's not like, okay, you know, we're going to really tune him into shape and we're going to get him he's at 90% and then we'll get him at 100%. We'll kind of peak him at just the right time for the Breeders' Cup Turf. He's going to fire a big race, I think. So I like him a lot. And my opinion is I do agree El Cordobas was probably last time was the time to have that horse. I actually think Farbridge is going to trip out. I think Farbridge is going to run a really nice race here. I think he's going to bounce back from a subpar effort. Redistricting appears to be the speed in this race. I think Joel just lets Farbridge kind of sit either just off or just behind him in all likelihood. Short field, he'll be able to get to the rail, which is where Farbridge likes to be. And you put that horse on the rail. I think he'll put in a good run. I don't think he's good enough to beat Rebels Romance, but I could see myself playing a 3-5 ice cold exacta sort of a thing, and just trying to play it that way. And you know, obviously, early pick 5 Rebels Romance would be my single.
I see Big Chief Rasta in chat saying, "What's going on, fellas?" And he says, "Josh doesn't play pure speed anymore." But you know what? You know, old dog can learn new tricks, right? But an old dog cannot quit Joel Rosario. So my pick in this race is actually Farbridge. You know, I'm going to have a fade on Rebels Romance in this spot. I don't really actually have a very good reason except for the Caleb reason. I just don't feel like betting him. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try and connect here with Farbridge. And like I said, I'm not playing this early. So I'm gonna try and make some money a different way, and I'll probably play something like a 2-5 double straight, have some win money on the 2 in race 4, have some win money on Farbridge here in race 5. I just think that if you look back at some of his races, once again, we talked about this with the previous race. Farbridge is a horse that has run some very, very nice races, including his all-time top time form figure 129, going this 1.5-mile trip. And he loves running, I think, here at Aqueduct. He just really likes, and he always tends to show up here. And if that's not enough for you, he does seem to always bounce back from a kind of a subpar effort, right? You kind of look at the Manhattan, right? He runs third by a neck, and the speed figure is fine, but he comes back in the Bowling Green. I mean, wins that. I mean, he should have won that race by a million, and he won by open lengths. Obviously was flat in that Sword Dancer, but yeah, I do like seeing him come back here, and you're right. He's got 5 horses in this race. He's going to be able to get his trip, and I do think that to your point, man, I think you're going to see Farbridge's best shot in here. Whether or not it's going to be good enough to bet Rebels Romance, who knows? But Caleb, I know Caleb will remember this. Because the last time Rebels Romance ran at Aqueduct, was that the time that you threw the rider and Channel Maker won, or was that
no? That was two back. That was
two back.
That's Saratoga, actually.
Oh, Saratoga.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got my races mixed up, but I had to get a Channel Maker reference in there for Caleb. So the old war horse there still. Caleb had been chasing that figure for so long, and who knew he had to wait till that horse was like 9 or 10 in order for him to run back to those numbers. But yeah, I like I said, horizontally, I think that the early sequence I'm not like too in love with. I agree with you. If you're playing some horizontal, I mean, like you got to use Rebels Romance. But I think because I'm gonna try and stick to maybe a double play here with the 2 in race 4. I'm just gonna stick with the 5 here, Farbridge, and have a little bit of win money on him.
I don't blame you. I mean, listen, if you're going to try to beat, if you're going to try to beat a horse like Rebels Romance and you're not playing that early, and I actually think it makes it easier if you're not playing the early pick 5, because then that puts you in a little bit of a bind, because then you're trying to find a single someplace else maybe, or go really skinny someplace else. And, okay, I like, Farbridge, but is he a single? No. So, now I'm throwing in some other horses into that sequence. It's much easier just to go, I'm going to take a swing with a simple win bet and see where we go from there. One thing I will mention in this early sequence, race 1 is a maiden special weight race, and you get the full sibling, the full brother to Clairiere debuting, the number 3 Courting, who sold for $5 million. at Sale. And that one is debuting for Todd Pletcher. So anybody who is a big fan of Clariere, I know I was, that horse is going to be making its debut. Chad Brown's got a couple of expensive horses for Resolute Racing, the 7 and the 8, that are running in that race. I think the 8 is the half sibling, the Unique Bella. And the 8 seems like maybe Resolute Racing might have overpaid for a horse, but hey, what else is new? The sky's blue. So anyway, just wanted to call out that first race, which should be a really fun one for pedigree people and fun maiden race. Kick it off.
Yeah, and Caleb, I forget, are you in Civilization this weekend?
Yeah, I'm around this weekend.
Okay. Well, knowing Caleb, he's going to be playing this middle pick 5 that starts in race
Love
5.
It.
So
love a good middle pick
so
5.
he's
every pick 5.
Yeah, he's going to play every pick 5. There's actually, we have in our group chat, we have a pinned post that has Caleb's like saying from, I want to say it's like 4 or 5 years ago.
It's
it says
multiple years ago.
Yeah, never let me skip another pick 5 again, because there was like one he skipped or something. And
yeah, I was trying to be responsible and just like not play a pick 5. I didn't have an opinion and like would have hit the pick 5 had I played for, I don't even know what it was anymore, a couple $1,000 probably. So
all right, let's move on to what probably is going to be the quickest race we cover, which is the Grade 2 Woodward. And originally we had 7 signed up for this race, but I believe DRF had reported that it looks like we're going to be down to 3. It looks like it's going to be Post Time, Phileas Fogg, and Locked. Is that correct? Did I got the right 3 horses?
That is correct. Yeah, those are the 3 horses. The other horses have been cross-entered and appear to be running. I think Willie D's, if I'm not mistaken, or Awesome Aaron is running. Some of these are running at Delaware Park, if I'm not mistaken. And Willie D's is going to be running in the Lucas Classic on Saturday at Churchill. And so, yeah, there's a couple of obviously a few defections, and unfortunate that it's going to end up being a 3-horse race. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and there is the aforementioned Fortnite Fun saying Dave Grenna gave out the Woodward trifecta today. So
he did, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a shame. I really did think that. Well, I mean, it's probably not a shame because it probably saved me money. Because I was going to use Willie D's to try and upset some of these horses. Just hoping that speed's going to just carry him to victory in the spot. But I kept on trying to make a case for your favorite horse in training, Matthew, but I couldn't get there with Post Time this time. But
not surprising.
I don't know. Like these 3-horse races are always they're always weird, right? Like on paper, in I think a quote unquote fairly run race, I think Locked looks really, really good. I think he would look really, really tough in the spot. But I've seen enough 3-horse races where the horse that gets the lead just wins. Because they just let him go. And I mean that means Phileas Fogg is just gonna kind of have his way in this race, isn't he? Like he's just gonna be able to get out there on the front end, set the tempo however he wants, and he's gonna get to play catch me, come and get me. Now, I don't think there's gonna be much of a value proposition here in a 3-horse race, but I think if I were gonna do anything in this race, it would be mostly through Phileas Fogg, because I don't know, it feels bad using more than one horse in a 3-horse race. So I don't know, Matthew, what did you think here?
Phileas Fogg and Don't Look Back. I mean, it's a horse that has speed and 2 closers in a 3-horse field. I mean, and Locked. Listen, I don't know if he left it all out at Santa Anita after that big cap, but he just hasn't really been the same since that race. And Phileas Fogg, now listen, he caused a cluster, in the Jockey Club Gold Cup with everything that happened there. But putting that aside, the horse still ran a really damn good race that day. And he won the Suburban the race before that, and he finished second in the Pimlico Special to Awesome Aaron right before that. And this horse has really good speed. He's been putting in consistent efforts. I think Kendrick, just puts him out up front and he just lopes along. I mean, he won in going 1.25 miles, so it's not like the 1.8 miles is going to be a problem, and he's going to set his own fractions. I just, post time, who knows? I'm sure Sheldon will find somehow to get him into trouble, make a late move, rally. By the way, they showed the highlight of post time's last race today on America's Day at the Races, and I don't mean to drag Sheldon, who's by all accounts a perfectly nice person, but even in that, it was a 5-horse field at Laurel. At the top of the stretch, you have the best horse by a mile. What does he do? Tries to split horses at the top of the stretch. My man put the horse in the fucking clear. It's not that hard. Like, what are you doing? And so it's just incredible to watch this guy ride this horse. And I'm like, ugh. And I mean, post time goes and romps and wins by 1 million. Because he's just that much better than everybody else in that race. But it's just like the decision making sometimes. You're just like, ugh, what are we doing, my guy? But yeah, I mean, listen, until post time really wins a big race with really big competition outside of Laurel, and I know he's won that one race against Super Chow and some of those others, down here in the Carter a couple of years ago. But outside of that, I mean, he really is a Laurel creature. And so for me, I just Phileas Fogg and don't look back.
Caleb.
Yeah, I agree. Phileas Fogg was my pick when the whole field was in. That was my selection anyway. I just think this horse is extremely sharp right now. But after the scratches, that goes from like a maybe single A. Like I was probably going to play with post time, maybe as a B. But now, I mean, this horse has just everything his own way. He gets the distance. He loves the track. He's just so sharp right now. If Phileas Fogg wins this race, I was looking forward to betting against Locked when when there would be more value. I still won't bet. I don't care if post time and Phileas Fogg scratch. I'm still not going to bet Locked. I don't know what this horse is. His last 2 races have been terrible. He has some minor excuses, but I mean, he looks like Tacitus out there. I mean, they're scrubbing on this horse at the 7 furlong pole.
Yeah.
I mean, working him, and he just looks like a hard horse to ride. And in this kind of a race where there's 3 horses and a lone speed, I just don't see the trip working out at all for a horse like Locked. Post time, like I said, I may have played with him a little bit when I thought it was a full field, and maybe there's a bit more pace on. But now that we're down to 3 horses, despite the fact that he is an expert in 3-horse fields, I don't know that I think he's one that I really want to bet. So, yeah, Phileas Fogg. Hopefully take the 3 to 5 single and move on.
And Josh, I will say one thing. I like Willie D so much that I picked him in the Lucas Classic for you. So I'm with you on that horse. I like that horse a lot.
Yeah, I honestly thought that there was a good shot for him to kind of go wire to wire in this one. So it's a little unfortunate. I mean, he lost to, like I said, in the Charlestown Classic to in my opinion, the coolest horse in training right now in Banishing. Because just Banishing doesn't care what distance it is. He legitimately just doesn't care. And I remember it's funny because the first time he ran this year, or not the first time he ran, but like on one of the first, like the early or the late Derby Trail streams or something, Caleb was all over Banishing. I think he had just won a nice race at like Oaklawn or something. And I was like, I don't know about the distance. And then sure enough, he just shows up and he just like absolutely like romps. And it just doesn't matter what distance that horse has gone. I'm still a little bit salty because I believe was Banishing. There was one race that he like scratched out of, and I was just like, it was absolutely the dumbest decision.
Oh yeah, he scratched out of the Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Yeah, and I was just like, dude, and I forgot that he didn't run in the Met Mile either, did he?
No.
And that was another race. I'm like, dude, how do you not run him in that race? And because they ran him on the undercard, didn't they run him in like they
might have.
They ran him in like the listed stakes race that came up like a freaking grade 2 because all the horses showed up to it.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
It's just oh man, that was frustrating. But yeah, I don't know. They might run him in the Classic. Who knows? But anything else on this race? Well, it's a 3-horse race. We talked about 3 horses, so let's just move on and save people the the pain there. So we get into the late pick 5 here. And I thought this was a good sequence. We get 2 turf races in here. We get a couple of decent fields, and we're gonna start here with a grade 2, and we're gonna be it's the Gallant Bloom Stakes, and we're gonna be going 6.5 furlongs here for 3-year-old fillies and mares and up, and your money line favorite in this race is going to be Our Disaster at 3-1. You get Sterling Silver and Senza Parole at 7-2. You get 6-1 on Impel and Scalable. You get 10-1 on Sunday's Girl and All Class, and then 20-1 on Patricia Ann. Stephen Fox saying that's a bingo. We did not go 45 minutes on a 5-horse field. I'm sorry to disappoint you there, but I landed on 2 horses in this race that were both kind of at a bit of a price. I saw Big Chief Rasa saying Josh doesn't play pure speed anymore, but I'm gonna be using this one horse, Our Disaster, at 3-1 in this spot. Inside drawn speed. You get Saffy Joseph on a big day in New York, and a big day anywhere. The dude shows up just with horses, and I think you kind of look through this horse's speed figures, especially on time form. I think this is a horse that has run a little bit better on fast track than on slop, and you go back to that Delaware figure. That's the fastest race in here by quite a bit, and I think the fact that Jose Ortiz sees fit to ride here is a plus. I always love Jose on any kind of horse that needs to be aggressively ridden, inside drawn speed. I don't think there's really much else to kind of say in that spot. And then the other horse I'm going to be using is the 4, Scalable. And now this is a horse that's coming off of a pretty long layoff, but this is a horse that is going to be. This is basically her first run as like a full 4-year-old, right? Had that race in early January, and obviously that speed figure was great, right? And Caleb and I and our friend Murphy, we talk about this all the time. This is a horse that kind of came in from off the pace on blue fractions on time form, which is always you kind of usually upgrade that effort a little bit. So they gave the horse a 120. They actually downgraded the raw fig for this horse from a 121. So and that's kind of closing in the blue fraction. So I would think maybe you could maybe even improve that effort a little bit. So that being said, obviously the layoff is a bit of a it is a long layoff, but this is still a young horse, right? This is still a 4-year-old, first time as a 4-year-old, and I could, the sky's kind of the limit a little bit still with this horse. Assuming the horse is sound, has been training well. I mean, if this is a horse that's able to fire fresh, something in the 120s is definitely possible here, and that puts this horse right in the conversation. The only question is, right, this horse has generally come from off the pace. Is that going to be tough to do on a big day at Aqueduct? We'll see. But 6-1, I think you're going to get a pretty square price on this horse. I think people might be a little bit scared by the layoff, so I like the 4. I like the 4 Scalable in here. But Matthew, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I'll pick up actually where we left off. I really like Scalable as well in the spot. This was a horse that I think is I like going back to some of her races when she was younger with Pletcher, even that Chandelier, I believe she was out west. And I got to give a lot of credit to my colleague Kaylee Shapiro. She and I were talking about this race earlier today, and we both like Scalable. And she started digging into some of the numbers on Pletcher. This is incredible. This horse is coming off about a 240-day layoff. So she said, Todd Pletcher, 200 to 260-day layoff. Over the last 5 years is 24%. Here's the real kicker. If you control for graded stakes races, he's 7 for 16, 44% off a 200 to 260-day layoff. So the fact that he's putting this horse in this spot shows an incredible amount of confidence to take this horse off a listed stakes victory in the Interborough and put this horse into a grade 2 off the bench. Must be training very well. You got Johnny Velasquez aboard, the Hall of Famer. I think 6-1 on Scalable feels like a really nice price and a horse I'm a very big fan of in this particular race. The other one that I'll mention is, and again, it's about the placement, but is the number 8 Senza Paroli for Chad Brown. Obviously, this horse burned a lot of people's money last time out, coming off that real long layoff after a dazzling debut effort back in 2024 at Saratoga, and came back from almost a year to the day later, and tired late in that N1X allowance race. But the fact that Chad is putting this horse straight into a grade 2 off of that effort, I would imagine has to tell you, A, his confidence in how this horse is training, and then B, the fact this horse is clearly going to be pointed towards bigger things, because if this horse wins this, I'd imagine she goes to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. So, I mean, he's got some big expectations for her. And I'm glad it wasn't as if that last effort deterred him at all from still aggressively placing her. So I think the placement of her in this race, as well as the placement of Scalable in this race, tells you how live both of these horses are. So those are the two that I really like here.
Caleb.
Yeah, I think for me, when I looked at this race, I didn't love any of the short prices. I mean, I looked at a horse like Our Disaster on the rail, who probably is your controlling speed, but to me, she sort of seems like she's, oftentimes, life or death to get 6. I just don't know how well she's going to see out the extra 16th of a mile here, despite the fact that she is maybe controlling speed. I don't think she's lone speed due to the presence of Matthew's second horse, Senza Parole. That's a horse who has a lot of early speed. She's not for me. I mean, I definitely understand where Matthew's coming from about the placement here is almost, it's a confident placing for a horse that with other connections would be 15-1 in this race. But I'm just a little curious. I mean, to open up 4 lengths in the stretch, then get caught, bothers me at 2-5, whatever she was that day. So will I be surprised when she takes a huge step forward and runs huge, ends up in the Breeders' Cup? Maybe not entirely, but I'll need to see it. And before I probably want to bet her in a race like this. I do agree with both of y'all about Scalable. I think she's probably takes a little money off that 6-1, I think, but she's definitely a horse that I want a lot of money going through. Probably a top pick in here. There goes the value. Yeah, probably. I don't think she goes off your favorite or anything, but 6-1 would be nice if we can get that. The horse that I actually like probably is my maybe second pick, or if Scalable is my top selection, is all the way to the outside, the number 9, Sunday Girl at 10-1. I get it that on raw numbers, she maybe has to find a few speed points, but if you also kind of look at her, she just seems like such a progressive filly. All the way from her, 2-year-old season, 3-year-old season, she impressed at first asking, ran away and hid, and just like continually takes these steps forward. Is literally undefeated, 6 for 6 over a fast dirt track, 5 wins in 1 second from 6 starts at Aqueduct. Ultimate horse for course angle, gets this trip. I love the post for her here. I would have hated to see Katie get drawn inside with the likes of Our Disaster and then the Chad Brown runner in here. But from the outside post, Katie has every option to watch what the main rivals do to her inside, take up a good stalking position just off. And I really think she's just, is a horse for course that's just getting better. And she's been mostly competing against weaker, but I'm not convinced that she's not honestly this good. She gets the right trip, and at 10-1, I think I'm getting the right price there. So I like Sunday Girl, and Scalable is my top 2.
All right. And then, yeah, Fortnite is fun. He hates the extra furlong. I wonder who he's talking about. I missed where. Is he talking about the 9? Maybe he's talking about the 9, but the 9's won at 6.5.
Yeah, might be talking about the one. I don't know. The one at 6.5 might be a little. I know. I know Faded one time got kind of nabbed after making the lead. The one horse that I guess I will talk about for a second that we mentioned is the number 2 Impel for Brad Cox, and that's one. It's Juddmonte homebred. Interesting that Flavian Pratt's up, considering. I mean, listen, no, surprising that Flavian's up on the amount for Brad Cox, but it is a little interesting that Manny's usually his number 1 guy up here at Aqueduct. So that just I thought was a little bit interesting. The interesting part for me with Impel though is the kind of the cutback angle going from a mile to 6.5, which I think is potentially beneficial for a horse that likes to come from a little off the pace sometimes. And she's a horse. Listen, that 90 last time out, if she was able to replicate the groupie doll, then sure. Then maybe she's got a shot. The 6.5, the only time she ran that 6.5 was at Keeneland, and that was coming off a real long layoff. So I'm not going to judge her 4th place finish as somehow an indictment of how she runs at this distance and that she can or cannot handle the 6.5 or cutting back to sprinting or anything along those lines. So, she won in debut at 6. So I'm not worried about that, but it's, that's another one, 6-1. I'm interested to see where that horse goes in terms of what the value is come post time. Because if a horse like Scalable's taking money, you figure Sense of Paroli is going to take some money. You figure Our Disaster is probably going to take a little bit of money. Then all of a sudden, does a horse like Impel somehow get lost on the board? Does she float up? I don't know. That might be interesting. With Pratt aboard, if you can get 6-1, 7-1, 8-1 on that type of a horse, I don't know. I mean, yes, that you'd have to assume that groupie doll is kind of a new, things are now to come. But hey, we lose Florent True, we pick up Flavian Pratt. That sounds like a good deal. So we'll maybe roll with Impel a little bit and underneath some exactas trifecta wagers. I don't know. Just a thought.
Road Warrior is saying he listening to Duggan yelling in his Irish accent down the stretch for Sunday Girl will be a fun time. Will be on his tickets, but the 2 does scare him to death. So he does like something about the 2. You know what's interesting about the 2, and actually a little bit about the 9 or not the 9, sorry, the 8 as well. These are 2 horses that have run well off Lasix, and then they put Lasix on, and the horses seem to just like run some of their worst efforts. Now, obviously, the 8's a little bit tougher to tell, right? Because it's the long layoff, it's off of a surgery, right? There's a lot going on there, but it's interesting that a horse like the 2, right? Had been running pretty consistently in the 80s on buyer speed figures. They put Lasix on, all of a sudden loses 8 to 8 points, and then drops the Lasix and then runs her best effort in the groupie doll. So, I know, Andrew Champagne on Drinking Champagne, he loves talking about Lasix a ton. Like he's all over it like it's the 90s again. And I don't pay as much of attention to it as much. I think Caleb and Mark oftentimes point out to me like, hey, like, have you not seen that horse doesn't run well on Lasix? And I'm like, nope. I did think it was interesting, especially like when we look at stakes races. So often these horses are just running in stakes constantly, so they're basically always off Lasix. So, but it's always interesting when you see, especially a horse like Impel, you see 3 very off form races, and all 3 of those were on Lasix. So I thought that was a little interesting in the spot.
The other thing about Impel is if you go into that groupie doll and take a look, Regaled and Alpine Princess ran back from that race, and on a buyer number, they both moved forward actually from their efforts. Because they both ran in that Locust Grove, and Regaled, if I'm not mistaken, ran like a 92, I think. Yep. And Alpine Princess ran a 95. So, I mean, that's promising to see. That number came back very real. And 2 of the horses that finished right behind Impel, while they didn't win, ran very, very well in the Locust Grove next time out. So I thought that was certainly promising for them.
Yeah, and then I had this up when you were talking about it as well. I had the was it the 200? I think I just did 260.
260. Yeah,
260. The filter, and 7 wins and 16 starts. 44% win. And you kind of look at the horses that he's done it with. I mean, Mind Frame's in there. Obviously, one of a horse that I believe I gave out in the paddock with you in Emmanuel is in there.
Yes.
Nest, Fearless, Annapolis. I mean, all kinds of big name horses in there.
Yeah,
Have
but a
come back and
variety
done
of,
well.
different surfaces, different distances, different types of horses. That's the interesting thing is they're not like all speed horses. They're not, they're really routers in a lot of instances, but they were, some on turf, some on dirt. Again, it just speaks to, we don't need to tell people that Todd Pletcher's a Hall of Fame trainer, but it just speaks to like how meticulously he spots these horses and like he knows his barn and his assistants know their barn and they know where these horses are going to be most likely to run well. And, they're not going to put a horse in a spot if they're, over their head. That's not good for anybody. This is a Rapoli Stables horse. Mike doesn't want to have egg on his face if this horse doesn't run well. I mean, he wants to see that horse run well on Saturday. So they're going to put this horse in the best place to be successful. And the fact they feel comfortable putting this horse in a grade 2 tells you everything you need to know, I think.
All right, let's move on to race 9 here, the Vosburg. 7 furlongs here for horses 3-year-olds and up. And your morning line favorite in this race is the one Scotland at 5-2. You get 3-1 on Crazy Mason, 6-1 on Nash, Doc Sullivan, Baby Yoda, 5-1 on Patriot Spirit. You get double digits on the rest. Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, kind of another race where I respect the favorites, but I wasn't super impressed with them to the point where I just want to rush to bet them at 3-1 or 5-2. And mainly, that's kind of based in the fact that, again, your favorites in here, Scotland and Crazy Mason, don't have much early speed. And that's probably a compliment to Crazy Mason by saying he doesn't have much early speed because, I mean, he might start this race a day later than the rest of the field. But yeah, I mean, I don't see much speed in here. And yeah, I mean, a horse like Super Chow is, arguably the horse that is going to go to the front here. But I just don't think this horse really is the horse that he was maybe a year or two ago. I don't like the horse at 7 furlongs. So I'm not making an argument for Super Chow, but I am trying to say I want the horses that are probably going to be sitting right behind him. And to me, that's probably the 7 and the 8, Light the Way and Patriot Spirit. We'll start with Light the Way, number 7 at a big number at 20-1. Ran a good race last time out at Saratoga. Just got beat by Baby Yoda, which, trying to beat Baby Yoda on Lasix at Saratoga is almost impossible. So I think you kind of give him a bit of a pass on that one. But Light the Way ran a big race at a good number. Has had a couple of wins here at Aqueduct. Is 0-7 at the distance, but does have wins shorter and longer. 0-5 at the distance, but does have wins shorter and longer. So I'm not too bothered by that. And yeah, this is a horse that I just think it certainly is not a need the lead type, I don't think, but is one that probably wants to be, within a length or two of the pace. And I think he gets his trip in here. I mean, Kendrick's had some success up for Linda. He had a great Saratoga riding for her, and he has ridden this horse to, wins 3 of the last 4 times he was up. The one loss was a turf race, which arguably you just kind of throw that one out. So for me, I like Light the Way in here quite a bit, who, his last 2 give him a puncher's chance at the upset here. The other horse that I mentioned is the horse right to his outside, number 8, Patriot Spirit. This is another horse who I think probably has more tactical speed than maybe immediately apparent. Came out last time and ran a really nice race at Colonial. The horse was 4-5. I don't know if he really beat much in that race. But regardless, the number came back fast. And even if you say, I don't care about that race, essentially, if you look at his other one-turn races, I mean, they're all pretty strong. I mean, 2 back in the Knicks Go. I mean, he ran a very nice race, just getting grabbed late after hitting the front, turning for home. The Essex, I mean, that's a 2-turn race at Oaklawn. He didn't embarrass himself, but probably really not what he wants to do, setting a pace that was way too fast and getting run down by some deep closers. And then, the race prior to that, I mean, he runs a good second in the 5th season to the Wine Steward at Oaklawn once again, and that is a 2-turn mile actually. So I kind of think that this turn back here, or, second time at the turn back at 7 furlongs where he's proven to be very effective. I think there's some dirty form there with some of those 2-turn races and the synthetic race and whatnot. He had some trouble in the Perryville. So I think Patriot Spirit's one that I was a little shocked that he's 5-1 on the morning line. I thought you might get a little better than that. I mean, I will be shocked if he goes off shorter than Baby Yoda, for example. But, David's a lot sharper than I am when it comes to this. So who knows? But he is one that I like. I'm hoping to get a little bit better than 5-1. But those are my 2 picks. I mean, I have nothing really against Scotland. And I think Crazy Mason's a super cool horse, but I don't know that the race sets up for them. Certainly not as the top 2 betting choices for me.
Yeah, I agree with you on the 8 Patriot Spirit. You look at this race and you don't see a ton of speed. And I just think that there's a good shot that the 8 Patriot Spirit's going to be able to get out there and go wire to wire. I have it on good authority that prices of snack packs have actually gone up. So, JJ is going to need to work extra hard this weekend in order to get his pudding. So I do think that, and JJ, like, whenever I think of, whenever I see a trainer that, like, I kind of like, I'm like, wait, who is this guy? Or kind of, have to ask questions. And I see JJ's up. That's always a good sign for me. Right. I think JJ is like one of the bigger name guys that's got absolutely no problem picking up a mount for some of these like smaller barns that he thinks are live. So, that kind of, tips a little bit to me as well. But just a lack of speed and the fact that Patriot Spirit, has run really well on the time form scale compared to some of these other horses. I think that, he's going to be my top pick in here. And then the other horse I'm going to use, I am going to use the 1 Scotland. I think of the short prices, he's the one I like. I don't really care much for Crazy Mason. I agree with you. I mean, like, look, like if you're going to be going, these sprint distances and you're going to be spotting the field 12, like, good luck. Right. I mean, like you can get away with it once or twice a year, but like you can't take a short price on that. I think at least Scotland, right? If the pace doesn't materialize, right, or if it's slow, this is a horse that's at least shown to get involved in the race early, right? This is a horse that instead of like, he might be 5th or 6th in this race, right? But he's going to be sitting 2.5 lengths off, right? He's not going to be 9 spot in the field 9 lengths. So I do think that he's the short price I trust the most. So he's going to be the one that I use here. And I don't know. I think that Bill Mott's done a really good job with this horse because obviously, right, this is a horse that, ran in the Pennsylvania Derby, right? This is a horse that ran in the Travers. They thought that this is the horse that was going to be a route horse. And as soon as, he kind of saw that, hey, maybe that's not the way, immediately switched to sprints and, has had a pretty good year last year. And, has put in 2 good efforts this year and hasn't won yet. I mean, obviously got second to Bookham Dano last time. But, I think Bill Mott's got himself a nice sprinter here. And, I like Scotland in the spot. So those are the only 2 I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using the 1 Scotland. I'm going to be using the 8 Patriot Spirit. Matthew, where did you land?
Yeah, I don't really have much more to add from what you guys said. My top choice was the number 8 Patriot Spirit. So there goes the value.
There goes the value.
That's forget about it. I mean, it's I just thought this horse looked so logical in a lot of ways. And I was a little surprised. It's interesting, Caleb, I agree with you. I thought we'd get a little bit more of a price. I was thinking, 6-1, 8-1 range. A little surprised at 5-1. I think David doesn't necessarily value a name. People just like betting Baby Yoda because they like Star Wars. So it doesn't really matter what his form is. People are going to bet the horse. I know Andy was incensed the first time, like 3 years ago, that Baby Yoda was taking money. It's like, I don't understand. Why is Baby Yoda taking money? It's like, it's not because of the horse, Andy. It's not. It's just because of the name. People just like the name. That's all. Nobody's taking an opinion about this horse. But I think Baby Yoda, I wouldn't touch that horse with a 10-foot pole in this race. I don't like this horse at all. You look at what this horse has done off Lasix, it's just nothing lately. So, and if Bill Mott can't get this horse going right without Lasix, no offense to, I think, Bob Falcone Jr., but I just don't see it happening. So, for me, Patriot Spirit made a ton of sense. A horse that, like you guys said, a lot of good speed. I love the fact that, Crazy Mason has no speed at all to the outside. So, Patriot Spirit is going to be that kind of controlling outside speed, which gives Javier that ability to just kind of play the break and go, okay, where do I want to slot this horse over? Doesn't need to be up on the lead, can track off the pace, really versatile. And again, a little bit of a horse, Josh, a little bit like what you were saying with Scotland, like this is a horse that won the Illinois Derby. I mean, this is a horse that won routing going long, but has shown the ability to cut back, run well. I just think, like you guys were saying, has some dirtied up form. But if you isolate certain races, you go, man, this horse is absolutely good enough to win in this spot. So I really like this horse. And then, Josh, I'm with you. Scotland, a horse that I just have a lot of respect for. Third back now in the form cycle. Thought ran a huge race last time out in the Forgo against outstanding company in terms of losing to Bookham Dano. And who else was in that race? I mean, obviously Crazy Mason was there, but Mulligan was in that race and had a lot of nice horses running that day. So, I just think, Bishop's Bay, Most Wanted, who's your favorite down in the ACAC on Saturday at Churchill Downs. So, I just thought that was a pretty loaded field, actually, and ran so well that day. So, like I said, I mean, now you're not going to get that 12-1 price that he was in the Forgo, but still, I think 5-2, it makes a lot of sense for its likelihood of winning this race. And, should be able to sit at least a mid-pack trip and make a bit of a run. But like I said, 8-1 for me, and maybe with a little bit of sprinkling of Doc Sullivan. I like Johnny Ortiz as a trainer quite a bit. I think that horse might be able to kind of run up into something, in the trifectas, that sort of thing.
Yeah, our friend Fortnite is Fun. He has got he likes Doc Sullivan in the spot at 6-1. He says he can't be shorter than Maury Line, though. He hopes to get double digits on this one. But
I don't know if you get double digits. You might get 8-1, but I don't know if you're going to get up to double digits on this horse.
So I know I'm sure James Kinchin's written that one down. So he's got that one in his notes. He's not here for us. Kinchin's not here for us. He's here for Fortnite. It's fun. I mean,
by the way, I do want to say I saw Road Warrior commented about the track drawing out.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to give a meteorological update from up here in New York, and that is that the rain has passed, and so we're going to have a nice day tomorrow at the track, and so by Saturday we should be pretty fast and firm. I mean, we should be pretty good to go, and that track should be all the way dried out. But Road Warrior's comment about the inside rail sometimes being good as the track is drying out is not incorrect. He's absolutely right. But I just think the track will be all the way dried out by Saturday. So just something to make note of.
All right. Well, that gets us through the stakes. But we got 3 more races to cover here to get through the late pick 5 here. Race 10, we got a 6 furlong turf allowance. We got a full field of 11. We got a couple of MTOs in this race as well. Your morning line favorite is the 8 Isle of Capri at 3-1. You get 4-1 on Sinane, 5-1 on Girls Rock, 6-1 on Leslie's Humor, 9-2 on the Pawn of Star, and then you start getting some longer prices in there. Matthew, where did you land here?
Yeah, this was a tough race. I mean, it's another turf sprint, which I always, like I said, I kind of sometimes will struggle with. Or they're really competitive races. I think you could go a few different directions. For me, it was funny. I kind of looked over this race. I didn't really want to put too much effort behind Isla Capri for Brendan Walsh. There are plenty of things to like about the horse. Second back from a long layoff, and ran well in that first race back. Just lost to Me Governor down at Colonial, but I ultimately really like the one Sinane for. Brad Cox with Manny Franco up. I thought this horse just, has been running some nice numbers on the turf the last couple of times out with Manny aboard. Nearly got the win 2 back and then won last time out, going a mile, going a little bit longer. But, has shown that flexibility of being able to run decently at 6 furlongs. So I just think, a horse is kind of shown a little bit more now that it's in the Cox barn, Manny up, second back from a brief freshening. I thought that one made a lot of sense. And then the horse that I think is a little bit interesting is the number 7, Upon a Star, who for Mike Maker is trying turf for the first time. But Wesley Ward tried to get this horse on the turf in a maiden race, and it got rained off. The horse goes and ends up winning the race anyway on the dirt. Now goes to Maker out of, I guess there might have been just a ownership change or what have you, but goes to Mike Maker. And I don't know, that one feels like could be a little bit interesting, especially with Flavian Pratt up. So I'll ultimately kind of went with the 1-7. Obviously, the 6, Leslie's Humor, is another one that I consider maybe a little bit deeper underneath.
Caleb?
Yeah, I agree with Matt about the 1, Sinane. That's my top pick in here. Horse just seems to have really improved since the barns change over to Brad Cox, as horses often tend to do. Just missed 2 back to Quiet Confidence, was 7 lengths clear of the field there. Quiet Confidence came back to win a nice allowance at Saratoga out of that effort. Sinane then stretches out to a mile and actually gets the job done. So I do kind of think it's telling that they, despite getting the win at the mile, that Brad decides to cut this horse back to 6 furlongs. If you're looking at time form, that actually was her fastest race, despite finishing second. So, I do think she just has a lot of options in here in terms of she can go forward, she can close from further back, she should save lots of grounds, just has to work out the right trip here and not get buried inside when it comes time to run. She is my top selection in here. I genuinely did not know what to do with Isle of Capri. If you're telling me I get 6-1, I probably use her. But if you're telling me she's like a 3-1 favorite, I don't know about that. I mean, she has 1 win at Kentucky Downs, which oftentimes that as a 2-year-old, oftentimes that form does not translate. I thought she ran fine in the Tepin to a really good horse in Laura Lynn. Her comeback race was also fine at Colonial, but I mean, I just wish I would have maybe seen a little bit more, maybe a step forward of some sorts. Instead, she still hasn't really run back to that number that she earned at Kentucky Downs, which, to be fair, is a suspect number in the first place because they time races with the sundial over there. But for me, I mean, at 3-1, I just don't think that's the right price for me to use her. If you're playing a pick 6 and don't want to lose to her, I get it. But I thought there was others that were more interesting. Only other one I'll talk about is the horse 2 to her outside, the number 10 Solo Shot. I get that these really aren't the sexiest of connections, and that's probably a large part of the reason why you're going to get 10 or 15 to 1 on this horse. But if you kind of just ignore the jockey and trainer for a moment, you have a horse that has run competitive numbers in most of her starts. 4 back at Saratoga, she kind of ran a stinker, but besides that, I mean, she's been right there. I mean, on time form, consistently running figures around 105, which is pretty much fast enough to win this race, or at least as fast as what the real contenders are running. She's been probably a little bit better going this 6 furlong distance at Aqueduct versus the 5.5 that she had at Saratoga on her last couple starts. So I think the more broad sweeping turns and the fact that you have a little more real estate to work with is going to help her. And you are getting first time Lasix on her 16th career start. The 4-year-old filly is adding Lasix here. If that does bump her up just a touch, I think it, honestly could make the difference in here. It does need to work out a trip. We can't be 16 wide going into the turn. So Murad does have to figure something out there, which is probably a big part of the reason you're getting 12 to 1. But, I think the price justifies the risk there for me. And I'm not a huge connections guy. So if I think the horse has a chance, I'm not too bothered by who trains it or rides it. So I'll take Solo Shot and Sinane it as my top 2.
Yeah. Caleb, Mark disappears and all of a sudden you and I were like right here every single race. My top pick in this race is Sinane at 4 to 1, right? I don't think I'm necessarily sticking my neck out. I would hit there goes the value thing, since I think we all kind of like this horse, but I mean, you guys have kind of already talked about all the reasons to like this horse, and time form's got this coded as a fast pace, but generally, when there's like 10, 11 horses in the race, I tend to take it a little bit with a grain of salt, because sometimes I kind of think, once you get the bigger and bigger fields, like the Kentucky Derby, it doesn't matter. Like there could be no pace in the race, and it's going to say fast pace just because there's 20 horses entered. So I do think that like Sinane, they have this horse as a mid pack run style, but they have this horse on the front end, right? So like that's kind of why I don't think the fast pace is necessarily going to materialize. That being said, I do think that Sinane is going to be close to the pace, and I think is going to get a nice trip here. Obviously, the number 10, I did see Fortnite is Fun saying, you can't ignore Romero Mirage on turf. He's atrocious. I don't have his turf stats up. Caleb, you might if you got the another product available in front of you, but
yeah, I mean, I'm showing him. I don't know what the time frame is, but 1 for 91.
So, but yeah, once you get to the 12 to 1, 15 to 1 range, and like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this horse floats up a little bit, because I could see the 1 and the 8, and maybe even the 7 taking a little bit more money. Yeah, I'm not going to talk anybody off this horse, and like I said, I like this horse. You go back to last year, right? This horse was winning stakes races at Aqueduct last summer. Albeit it was Irad Ortiz, not Romero Mirage aboard. But yeah, those time form figs. I mean, this is a horse that just runs consistent 103, 105 time form figs, and that's what the rest of these horses are running. And you're getting 4, 5, 6 times the price on this horse. So I'll take a shot there with Solo Shot. The only other horse that you guys didn't talk about that I liked was the 3 Girls Rock. This is a horse that obviously took a while to break its maiden, took 6 starts, and finally got there on an off the track or off the turf muddy race. Comes back at Saratoga in a kind of a salty allowance race there, and runs a nice 106 in that effort. And lost that race by 5.5 lengths there. So we don't have any run backs to see, hey, is that, we have one run back, but it was a dirt race. But that 106 is basically, once again, is fits right in with what everybody else in this race is running. And, I think this is a horse that has shown some tactical speed, has been on the front end, and the last 2 out of the last 3 races has been, off the pace a little bit. So I do think that Junior's going to have his choice on what he kind of feels to do here. I think this is a horse that can probably win close up or can kind of, sit just off. So I do think actually getting to a slightly, a slightly longer distance here, right? We're running the 6 instead of the 5.5 that this horse has been running. It might, for coming from off the pace, might actually help this horse a little bit. I like the 3 Girls Rock here, especially coming off the figure in the last race. But those are the 3 I'm going to use. I'm going to use the 1, I'm going to use the 3, and I'm going to use the 10.
Yeah, 3 will be on some of my tickets as well, Josh. I'm with you.
All right, race 11. We got a 1 mile turf allowance race here. And this is another big field here. We got 12 horses here in the main body of the field here, and your morning line favorite in this race is going to be the 9 exact estimate. You get 7 to 2 on General Jim, 5 to 1 on Victory Way, 6 to 1 on Retouch, and then you basically pick your price on the rest of the horses in this field. I had 3 horses written down in here. I do like the favorite in here, exact estimate. Does seem to kind of be probably not going to be your leader. I think the 2 horses to his outside are going to be a little bit faster early. But I do think that this is a horse that does possess some tactical speed here, and is going to be able to kind of let the speed kind of go, and honestly is going to give the speed, I think, a little bit of a problem, because I think the speed's going to have to kind of get going a little bit, because if they're going to want to try and get kind of around this 9, right? So, it had me downgrade a little bit some of the outside horses in there, because I don't think they're going to be able to just, get over right away, right? They're going to have to kind of run for a little bit, I think, to get around some of the like horses like the 7 and the 9 that have a little bit of tactical speed there to their inside. But I do think the 9's going to probably sit a pretty nice trip here. Granted, is coming out of Chad's Brown. But he's going to Tom Morley's barn. Mark's not here, so somebody's got to sit for Tom Morley. So I do like the 9 in this spot. Especially coming off those last 2 efforts, right? You get a 119 time form, a 118 time form. That's basically the fastest in this field, going a mile and a mile and 16th respectively. So really like the 9 in this spot. The 2 retouch is another horse, is a kind of Flavian Road, the 9 last time out is here for Chad Brown. Probably a bit of a fake Chad, since this is a horse that went to Tampa Bay first up, and we haven't seen this horse since April, but this horse has been training pretty regularly up here at Saratoga, and did take a step forward in that first run at Tampa based off of some of the races this horse had in France. So I do like. I'm interested to see what this horse does second time up here in the U.S. I see 6-1. I don't know if we're going to get 6-1 in New York on a Chad Pratt horse, second time up in the U.S. But I do think that this is a horse that does have some upside. So I'm going to have this horse on most of my tickets. And then the only other horse I had was the 4, Highest Distinction. This is a horse that is kind of been running in that, was at Turfway Park, but otherwise has kind of been in that Mid-Atlantic area and Monmouth and Colonial. It doesn't necessarily have, you have to go back to 2023 to find a win for this horse. But this is a horse that has been running those consistent high teens on the time form scale. And I think that this is a horse that just kind of fits well, matches up well speed figure wise on time form with some of the rest of these horses. So, this is a horse that closed in the blue fractions, which is something I talked about earlier last time out, and just missed by half a length last time. If you look at some of the run backs, I do think that figure last out was basically confirmed, because you see the run backs, basically say these horses have been running back to these figures. So I think that 118 is legit, and that 118 puts this horse right in the conversation with the rest of this field. Obviously, you're going to see people are going to see these connections, and probably not bet it, because they're going to be like, who the heck is this? I don't even know what Yara's first name is. I do think that Lindsay Schultz and is it Fernando Yara? I'm looking at Matthew like he can
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Fernando, yeah.
But yeah, this is a horse that has definitely got figures that fit in here. Looking on Bayer, this horse looks even better, I think, than he even does. He looks good on time form, but I think Bayer kind of backs it up. So, interested to see what price you get on this 4, but at 10-1, this horse definitely could be on my tickets. So, Matt, where did you land?
Yeah, it's interesting. I definitely like the 2 quite a bit. That's my top choice. Is Retouch at 6-1 for Chad Brown. This horse had some nice efforts over in France and came back, made that first start in North America off a pretty significant layoff at Tampa. And increasingly we're seeing Chad running a lot of his turf horses at Tampa. It's not as much of a scarlet letter as it used to be. I think he likes running them maybe a little bit more at Tampa than he does at Gulfstream Park over the winter, just because that turf course at Tampa, I think, is a little bit better and maybe more conducive for some of the running they're going to do later in the year in New York and Kentucky. So, that race produced 2 next out winners. The winner of that race went on to be stakes placed. And so that was a productive enough race down there. And now you get Flavian Pratt up. Like you said, Josh, the horse has been working locally up at Saratoga. So I like that too. If you can get anywhere near 6-1, that seems like a really good price. I think you probably get closer to 4-1 come post time, but I still like that horse quite a bit. I will say I was a little concerned about Exact Estimate for this reason. Obviously goes to Tom Morley, who I like as well. Claimed for 75, which that's a pretty high claiming price. And you'd like to see a trainer run that horse back, not for the tag, and like go, hey, I got this horse from Chad Brown's barn for 75. Let's run this horse in a few races and see what we got. Horse is already back in for a tag for Morley. Like, you claim the horse for 75 and now you're putting the horse back in for 75. I know you got to play the claiming game sometimes, but it was also a little worried. The horse worked for him, for Morley, that is, in like September 4th, then skipped a workout, then worked one September 17th. So it's like, is Morley seeing something here from this horse where it's like, okay, maybe, let's see if we can get the claiming price back, and, if we get those horse claimed again, and, maybe the horse can finish up in the money. I don't know. It's just, I would have liked to have seen him be more protected in this spot. That would have maybe given me a little bit more confidence, but that's just, maybe me reading between the lines a little too much in that particular race. But the only other one I was going to mention was the Mott horse, actually on the far outside. I would love this horse so much more if it drew almost any other post position, the 12 of Victory Way. I can't get around to that post position, because I agree with you that they're going to have a hard time getting over and, saving ground going into that turn. And so this is a horse that's going to get stuck wide. But, Mott has this one running 2 times on the turf in terms of the workouts in the morning, and now enters this horse on the turf for the first time, sired by City of Light out of a Giants Causeway mare, so should be able to handle the surface. And this is a decent enough horse running against some nice runners like Crazy Mason, 24 Mamba, General Partner, even going back to El Grande Yo. I mean, Il Miracolo. I mean, this horse has run against nice company over the years on the dirt. Now you're doing a surface switch, and Mott's number 1 jockey's now up on the mount with Junior taking over. Far outside post isn't necessarily always a bad place to be, but like you said, going in could be kind of hung wide going around the turn. But 5-1, I don't know if I love that price, but I did at least want to shout that horse out, as I think the horse has plenty of reason to run well in the grass first time out.
Yeah. So things to like, things not to like. I think you're both nuts on retouch. I don't see it at all. Horse is by no small margin the slowest horse in the field. Was entered an allowance race at Monmouth on September 7th, got washed off the turf, scratched and pivoted back here. I don't know why Chad had this horse stabled at Saratoga. Looks like he was working up to a race. Something happened, missed some time, got back on the work tab, tried to go to Monmouth, got washed off, ends up here. I just think this field's too tough for him. Not a horse I'm ever going to use at the expected price. I have a close to a single in here, and shockingly, it's not one that none of y'all have mentioned, and it's not a weird horse, I don't think. The number 5, General Jim. I think this is significantly your most likely winner of this race. I was very excited to bet him in the Bernard Baruch Stakes, because I thought his run in that optional 100 on July 18th at Saratoga was phenomenal. They let Big Everest get away with murder on the front end. Nobody really made up much ground, and General Jim put in a big run late, to get up for 3rd in a race that, he never had much chance of winning. I've always kind of thought he was a better turf horse, despite the fact he's had some success on dirt. So then I finally get to bet him in the Bernard Baruch, and that race just came up super tough. I mean, easily as tough as a grade 3 and arguably a grade 2. When you look at, Donegal Momentum, Northern Invader, and Program Trading, all graded stakes winners. I mean, I think Program Trading's, if I'm not mistaken, a grade 1 winner, I think, last year. Race just was an extremely tough race for being a listed stakes. So I think this is a massive, massive class drop here. Despite the fact he finished 4th, I mean, he actually did run an improved race relative to his race 2 back. I just think he's just tons the best in here. Will get, the right kind of setup. I don't think I want the leaders in here, because I do think there's enough speed to keep things honest. So I do think he gets a nice trip, kind of sitting mid pack in here. And, as long as Manny kind of gets him in the race early enough, I think that he's your most likely winner. So very much, very high on General Jim. very out on retouch. Josh, I think you talked about the 4 highest distinction. I like that horse. Numbers kind of fit. Closed into a slow pace at Colonial last out that did produce a couple of next out winners. Lindsey Schultz already has a winner here at a nice price on the meet. So yeah, I mean, I like that horse, and I even like the horse directly to his inside, Magical Ways. So apparently, if I'm correct, Romero Mara will triple his turf win percentage in one day. So, I like this horse a little bit less, I think. But again, I thought he ran a nice race against the flow that day, against Exact Estimate, where most of the speed kind of held on. The horses who were forwardly placed tend to, finish, up front and on the board. Magical Ways is really the only one who kind of made a run from off. And that was after being a little fractious at the gate and acting up a little bit. I get it. He's never won on turf. It's bad jockey. Rudy Rodriguez, though, is a trainer that's notoriously streaky. I think we watched him go, 3 for 70 or something at Saratoga, and has had a very hot start to the Aqueduct meet. Cooled off a touch, but still been very hot. So that's another one that I'll throw in as well. But for me, essentially, General Jim is close to a single A, and I'll probably have some combination of the 3, the 4, and maybe even the 6, Judge Davis, kind of as B's behind him.
Yeah, 49 is fun is asking if we talked about the 12L. He was away, but he says interesting if odds stay reasonable, and that was a horse that Matthew liked. He likes a 12 a little bit in Victory Way.
Yeah, I think there's. I'll be interested to see what odds we get come post time on that horse. I mean, I think the surface switch is always a little bit of a question, but I think there's enough to like there that if you want to, stake a claim at a certain price with that horse, there's a reason to think he could run well. And just to follow up on Caleb's point, listen, General Jim, I was just looking over my picks. Listen, it's my second choice in this race. I like this horse a lot. And it's funny because he's a horse that I remember when he won that Swale, he was supposed to run, I believe, in the Fountain of Youth. And he spiked a fever, and Shug scratched him from the Fountain of Youth. But this was a horse that they had like on the Derby Trail potentially. And Shug scratched him from the Fountain of Youth, and he shows up at the Pate Mile and wins. This is a talented horse. And I remember him in that South Florida circuit back then, and I always was a big fan of. And Caleb, you're absolutely right. That Bernard Baruch was just a murderer's row. I mean, it was a 5-horse field, but I mean, geez, that was such a good listed stakes race with just such high quality horses in it. So, this is absolutely a class drop for him. And my biggest problem is he just hasn't won since that Pate Mile. He just hasn't been the winning type. And, maybe he floats up a little bit. Maybe some of these other horses, maybe a horse like Retouch takes a little too much money, and General Jim can remain a pretty good price. And, that would be pretty nice if we see that. But definitely a nice horse, one I have a lot of respect for, and will not be leaving off a late pick 5 ticket for sure.
All right, and we close this out with a 2-year-old filly New York bred dirt maiden race. What better way to close out a pick 5 as Caleb?
Can we just talk about putting this race here for a moment? I know we do this all the time, but come on.
I know. I know. Trust me. As somebody who does, you guys know I do capping the card a lot, where I go through every single race in the card. I cannot tell you the number of times I make a snarky comment going to the last race. I'm like, and we're going to close it out with a $40,000 maiden claimer for New York breds going 6 furlongs on the dirt. And I'm like, let's go. And we go from the grade 1 Travers to a New York bred race. All right, here we go. And it kills me every time.
Yeah. I mean, I can even suffer through some of the, lower quality maiden 40s or whatnot, but like a race like this is almost just a crapshoot. And, you're going to go into this race blind and then watch, the 6-1 Morley and Velasquez horse open it 3-2 and just know you're cooked immediately.
Yes.
Yeah. That being said, I like the 1 in this spot, Hot Currency at 7-2. Going to be your morning line favorite in here. I mean, Linda is just second time out. I forgot I had a stat pulled at some point. She's 22% second start with a maiden, right? With a positive ROI. She gets Flavian Pratt to ride here, which just makes you think that this is a well-met horse. Now, granted, this is a horse by a central banker, right? And the last race was in the slop, where this horse finished second. But Linda's not really one that wins, wins first time out all that often. So I think you maybe take it as a positive, even though that was a slop fig, and you hope to move up a little bit, I think, in this next race. And then the other horse I liked in here was the 11 Absolute Smoke. Kendrick Carmouche and David Duggan here. And this is the horse that showed some speed, kind of tried the head, headed the horse there at the top of the stretch, and it kind of faded a little bit. But I do think that in these 2-year-old races, I mean, speed's always dangerous. It's a little unfortunate. I think that Kendrick's drawn all the way on the outside here again, but Kendrick is going to get this horse out clean. I think he's going to get this horse aggressively placed, and I think he's going to be kind of tough to beat. I looked through this race. There's just not a lot of trainers in here that like to win early. I mean, the 5, Let Me Count the Ways. Excuse me. Mike Maker is only 13% first time. I think people are going to see Yaupan, who I think has gotten off to an okay start. Yeah, 22%, so more than okay start as a sire. So maybe that's one that you're going to have to use in case the debut money comes in there for that. But outside of that, the only other horse I was interested in was one of the AEs. I thought the 14 Cupid's Choice coming in from Colonial. If this horse draws in, I think this horse is going to be on my tickets. I mean, that horse ran a very respectable 65 buyer last time out, and has got kind of got the lead there for a little bit, and then kind of just got past and gave up. So I like to see those types of horses second time out, to see if maybe they're able to kind of they just needed that first start, and this is the horse that is another one that's got a really, really nice early pace figure there. And like I said, the first out speed figure, I think, it looks pretty good. So, and this is actually also a trainer that does really well with 2-year-olds. John Robb is 21% with 2-year-olds, which is, a pretty, pretty gaudy number there. So I got the 1 and the 11 as my A's, and I got the 14 as my lone B in here if he draws in. Matthew, where did you land here?
Yeah, definitely. Just to kind of talk about some of the overlap, definitely like the 11 a little bit for Duggan. Blinkers on, second start. I mean, so many times in these 2-year-old races, it really, unless you have a monster, which I think there might be some sneaky, pretty good horses that I'll talk about that are debuting, but unless you have somebody who's really scary, a lot of times experience does win out at the end of the day. That a horse that just understands the process of, hey, this is how we load into the gate. This is what's going to happen at the break. This is, going through this whole experience already. And then not to mention the additional conditioning of just having run a race and then gotten a couple of works since then. And is just going to be maybe a little bit more fit. So I do agree. Absolute Smoke as a horse I at 9-2. I would be very much so interested in using on all my late pick 5 tickets. That said, I do really like a first time starter. And it's the one you brought up. Let Me Count the Ways for Maker, who, listen, may not be, incredible first time out, but knows how to get them ready. It's not the same as Morley, who really does not do well first time out. And it's very low percentage in that regard with the 3, who has a couple of bullets. But what you like to see is that really strong gate work from Let Me Count the Ways 2 back September 13th. You see that bullet gate work first of 168, I think. And that really tells you a lot that this horse has a lot of good speed. You had Jose Ortiz aboard. Josh, you mentioned, you'll like to see Jose with a horse where he can be aggressive. He's going to get this horse out and put into a good position early. So I think this one, sired by Yaupan, who has been, just very, very good with his first out numbers to this point. New York bred. The mare's been productive, not a ton first out necessarily in terms of success, but not bad. And was sold for $190,000 too at the sale. So that's a good number for a New York bred to sell for almost $200,000 at one of those sales. And I will give you a lot of points on the number one as well in terms of Linda's horse. That's a central banker that sold for 200,000. I mean, you don't see that every day of the week. And so that tells you, at least physically, that horse must have been pretty nice to bring 200,000 at the OBS April sale. That said, the inside rail always scares me in 2-year-old races. You just don't know how horses react to that sort of position. And it's kind of the inverse of what I usually like to play. I like to see horses that break from the inside rail and their next start be on the outside. And they go, okay, we get a little bit of a reprieve. This horse broke on the outside, now gets the inside rail. I always worry about just how horses respond to that in case maybe the horse next to it shows a little bit more speed. There's bumping, jostling. Do you not get to the lead? Do you get shut off? That sort of thing. Obviously, Flavian Prada should have resolved some of those issues. But for me, the 5 and 11 were the two that I looked at. And but Josh, I got to thank you because I didn't even really look at the AEs in this race. But that John Robb horse absolutely is one to consider if there's some scratches in this field, which there usually are in these types of races.
Caleb.
Yeah, so I think we all agree on the one, being in here with a decent shot in here. I mean, I don't need to talk much about that. Linda, second time out, always better than first time out. So you do got to worry about the slop and the post a little bit, but lots to like there. I also agree with you in the 11, Josh. I mean, horse speed and fade in a debut race. Blinkers go on, very positive mood for David Duggan. Lots to like there as well. I'll talk a bit about the 5. I think, Josh, maybe you weren't too high on. Matt, I know you were a fan of. I had it in my mind, and I know we've talked about Mike Maker first time out. I had it in my mind he was not a very good 2-year-old debut trainer, like first time out with 2-year-olds. And I mean, if you look at a long, 5-year sample size, that he's just average or below average maybe. But if you filter it down to the past 1 year with 2-year-old first-time starters and dirt sprints, he's 29%, 7 for 24. And if you drop it back to 2 years ago, it's still like 24%. That's a $4.09 ROI. I mean, he's clearly improved at winning with these 2-year-old dirt sprinters, despite my notion, and apparently other people's notions, that that's not his strength because you're getting a $4 ROI on every $2 bet. So, I think this horse getting Jose up and the Alpine being, probably the hottest freshman sire out there right now, has a lot going for him. I don't need to talk too much about him because he is 4-1 as I think your second choice, but horse I'll definitely be using. The only other one that I'll probably throw in that we haven't talked about is the number 9, Giovanna Marie. This is more just kind of a hunch play. Bruce Levine, not a huge barn, but always does pretty well with limited samples, despite being a pretty tough circuit up in New York. And, Ricardo Santana is one of his, go-to riders. They teamed up pretty well together a few times at Saratoga. Ricardo is just riding phenomenal this year. I mean, nobody had a better Saratoga than he did. And I don't care what the standings say or the earnings say or whatever. I mean, for the quality of the mounts, relative to what he was getting versus others and the number of mounts, I mean, he had such an improved and just remarkable season up at Saratoga. He's been riding so well. I don't mind the wide post here because I'd rather a 2-year-old, have some room to work out the break as a first-time starter in here. Appears to have been working pretty steadily heading into this race. And I do like the, just one shy of a bullet work, coming from the gate on September 19th. I think we'll see this horse flash some speed with Ricardo up, who always rides pretty aggressive and, might be good enough at 8-1. So, I like, essentially 1, 5, 9, and 11 in this race.
All right. Anything else in this race? Well, Matthew, what do you got coming out with NYRA Bets?
Got a lot. We got some fun stuff that's already up. Kaylee Shapiro and I have the latest episode of Road to the Breeders' Cup, where we preview the 4 Breeders' Cup Challenge Series races taking place at Santa Anita, in addition to the Vosburg that we talked about tonight. So that's already up. Obviously, if you go to NYRA Bets, you'll see the race of the week, This Week in Racing write-ups for the Belle Dame, for the for the Hirsch, I should say. But also up on the YouTube channel, I have a preview of the ACAC and the Lucas Classic at Churchill Downs. And then Kaylee actually has got a new little special maiden race of the week video that's going to be popping up here in the next day. I think highlighting that race 1 at Belmont at the Big A on Saturday. So a lot of content. And then obviously next week, we're going to have a ton of stuff around all those great races between Keeneland and Belmont at the Big A, with the Frizette, the Champagne, the Alcibiades, the Breeders' Futurity, the Spinster, all that stuff. So look for a lot of stuff there, and then a lot of just live content taking place down at Keeneland, as Kaylee Shapiro and I are both going to be down there for opening weekend. So yeah, staying busy, a lot of stuff, and a lot of Breeders' Cup centric things to get you ready, and not just those races here, but also help you get ready and acclimated to all those European horses that are coming over that you might not be very familiar with, as well as all the great Japanese runners who might be coming over, including, maybe not going to make my Breeders' Cup Classic pick yet, but maybe my favorite horse in training right now, Forever Young. So excited for him to come back next week in his first and only prep race for the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Caleb, what are you up to this weekend? DJing?
Yeah, I'll be around. I'll be around tomorrow, Saturday. Sunday, might do some hiking. We're kind of running on shoulder season here, so it's going to get cold. But might do some hiking Sunday. But yeah, I'll be around Saturday for the nice card at Aqueduct. I'll be looking at Santa Anita Saturday. Their card there looks half decent as well. Might play around in a few contests. I was not around last weekend, so got some. Got to scratch the itch. But yeah, so I'll be around. Yeah, what about you, Josh?
Caleb, I'm Caleb. I'm curious though. I'm a hiking guy as well. I like hikes and I like going on hikes. Are you a down and back guy or are you a loop guy? Which of those two hikes do you prefer? If you see a hike and it's like 4 miles up and back or a 4 mile loop, which are you more likely to do?
Normally a loop. I'm a loop.
Same here.
Yeah, but now in Colorado, a lot of like the mountains that like the 14ers and whatnot, they are almost all out and back. You could make a traverse out of it, I guess, but that's beyond my ability. But yeah, no, big loop guy. I like to see different scenery the whole way. And I don't want to come down stuff I already passed.
Yes, no, my ex-wife and I would get into great arguments about this because she was much more of a down and back. And I was like, yeah, but if we do this, and she's like, it's 9.5 miles now. I'm like, yeah, but it's a loop. And it's like,
yeah, but it's a loop, right? Exactly. It'll feel faster.
Exactly.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be around this weekend. We were gonna go to a Oktoberfest thing on Saturday, but apparently we were gonna go buy tickets, and then like my wife's like, oh, they're unavailable, and so we thought they sold out, but actually they canceled the event. So we're going to have our own little Oktoberfest tasting here at home. So I'm going to go pick up a bunch of different Oktoberfest beers from around the area. And we're just going to do some beer tastings and, fire away at some races. And, from Aqueduct to Churchill Downs to Santa Anita all the way to Hong Kong. So we'll be busy. But
are you going to wear lederhosens?
No.
No. All right. Well, I was just trying to help it go viral. I was trying to help the whole weekend go viral. So
wait a second.
What do the viewers? What do the people want?
But that's I don't know if they want that. But that's gonna do it for us here on The Wrong Lead. Obviously, check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. Check out Matthew at Failed the Menace, at NYRA Bets. Caleb's at CalebWVU. I am at Cherry Drank. Check out our friends at DRF. They got a bunch of stuff out now. They got their new sports, or they got a bunch of sports betting content coming out now as well. Check that out. I know David and our friend Gino just did a stream tonight covering some Saturday stakes. So check that replay out on Twitter. And obviously, they got all kinds of new products coming out. So, pay attention to that stuff. Check out our friends at don't check out our friends there. Check out our friends at NYRA Bets. That's gonna do it for us here. I'm gonna get out of here.
Check out all of our friends. Check out
check everybody out. Who cares? Hey, even this guy.
Hey guys, Andrew.
Okay, maybe not him.